History is not just a collection of dates and events. It's a story of turning points, moments so powerful that the world before them was completely different from the world after. These are the sparks that ignited revolutions, the discoveries that shattered limits, and the decisions that redrew the maps of our lives. Today, we travel back in time, not just to witness history, but to feel it, to stand in those moments that changed everything. Throughout the vast timeline of human history, there have been moments so profound that they altered the course of civilization forever. These turning points were not always grand in scale at first glance. Sometimes they began as small sparks, an idea, an invention, a movement, yet their impact rippled through centuries. One such turning point was the dawn of agriculture. Before this shift, humans roamed as nomadic hunter-gatherers, following the seasons and relying on the land's natural abundance. But when early societies learned to cultivate crops and domesticate animals, everything changed. Permanent settlements emerged. Villages grew into towns, towns into cities, and with them came governance, trade, and the birth of organized culture. It was in these settlements that art flourished, language developed, and human collaboration reached new heights. Another critical moment came with the invention of writing. For the first time, knowledge could outlive the storyteller. Writing allowed civilizations to pass down laws, record trade, preserve literature, and share ideas across generations. The wisdom of the past no longer faded with memory. It became immortal on clay tablets, parchment, and paper. This ability to communicate across time became the backbone of progress, enabling humanity to build upon the work of those who came before. The Industrial Revolution stands as another monumental turning point. With the harnessing of steam power, mass production became possible. Factories replaced small workshops, and machines began to do the work of many hands. Cities expanded rapidly, and a new social and economic order took shape. Though the Industrial Revolution brought challenges, harsh labor conditions, pollution, and social upheaval, it also paved the way for modern infrastructure, transportation, and technology. The digital age is perhaps the most recent turning point in our civilization's story. The invention of the computer, followed by the rise of the Internet, has transformed how humans connect, learn, and live. Boundaries of time and distance have dissolved in the realm of instant communication. A single idea, posted online, can now reach millions within seconds, a speed of change unimaginable to earlier generations. Information is no longer the privilege of the few. It is at the fingertips of anyone with access to a screen. These turning points remind us that civilization is not static. It is a living, evolving story written by the choices, innovations, and even mistakes of humanity. They also show us that change often comes with both opportunity and risk. While progress brings comfort and connection, it also demands responsibility, for every invention can be used for creation or destruction. Looking back at these moments, we realize that each one was born from human curiosity, determination, and the desire to improve life. They are milestones not just in history, but in our shared identity as a species. The story of civilization is the story of change, and in every turning point lies a reminder. The future is always being shaped by the choices we make today. Throughout history, there have been moments when the course of nations was altered not by armies or weapons, but by the sheer power of words. In times of injustice and oppression, voices have risen from the crowd, daring to speak truths that many feared to utter. These voices, often belonging to individuals of remarkable courage, ignited revolutions that reshaped societies. They came from different lands and different eras, yet they shared a common belief that one person's conviction, spoken aloud, could awaken the hearts of millions. One such voice was that of Mahatma Gandhi, who led India's struggle for independence through the philosophy of nonviolence. In an age when colonial powers relied on force to maintain control, Gandhi's refusal to meet violence with violence became a weapon more powerful than any army. His words inspired a nation to rise not with swords, but with unity and moral strength, proving that justice could be achieved without bloodshed. Across the ocean, Martin Luther King Jr. stood at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and declared his dream for a future where people would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. His voice was not just a plea for equality. It was a demand for change that echoed through every corner of America. In the face of segregation and deep-rooted prejudice, his speeches became a beacon of hope, urging society to rise above hate and embrace justice. There were others whose words shook empires, leaders like Nelson Mandela, whose determination to end apartheid in South Africa inspired not only his own people, but the entire world. His voice carried the weight of decades spent behind prison bars, yet it emerged not with bitterness, but with a call for unity and reconciliation. His message proved that the true victory of a revolution lies not in revenge, but in healing. Even in times wise, hen voices were silenced. Their echoes persisted. The writings of Thomas Paine during the American Revolution, the fiery speeches of Emmeline Pankhurst for women's suffrage, and the poetic calls for freedom by Pablo Neruda all show that revolutionary voices are not limited to the battlefield or the political stage. They emerge wherever injustice exists, from the streets to the pages of a book, from whispered conversations to global broadcasts. The power of these voices lies in their ability to transform anger into action, despair into determination. A revolution begins not when the first shot is fired, but when the first person dares to speak against the tide. Words can cross borders, outlive their speakers, and inspire generations yet unborn. As we reflect on these voices, we are reminded that revolutions are not only written in history books, they are living legacies carried forward by those who continue to speak for truth, justice, and freedom. And perhaps the most important lesson is this: in the right moment, any one of us can become that voice. Human history is marked not only by battles and leaders, but by discoveries that shattered the limits of what was thought possible. Each breakthrough has been like opening a door to a new world, forever changing the way people live, think, and dream. Some of these discoveries came after years of deliberate study, others by accident. Yet all of them expanded the horizons of human potential. They are the sparks that lit the path from survival to advancement, from wonder to understanding. One of the earliest and most transformative discoveries was the control of fire. To modern eyes, it may seem simple, yet for our distant ancestors, it was nothing short of miraculous. Fire brought warmth in the cold, light in the darkness, and safety from predators. It allowed humans to cook food, making it easier to digest and unlocking more nutrients, which fueled physical and intellectual growth. This mastery of nature was the first step toward shaping the environment to meet human needs. Centuries later, another groundbreaking discovery forever changed human understanding: the realization that the Earth is not the center of the universe. When figures like Copernicus and Galileo challenged the long-held belief that everything revolved around our planet, they risked persecution to share a truth that shifted humanity's perspective. This was not just a scientific revelation. It was a humbling reminder of our place in the cosmos and a spark for the scientific revolution that followed. The discovery of electricity was another turning point that redefined possibilities. For millennia, light and power were bound to the cycles of the sun and the strength of human or animal labor. But when pioneers like Michael Faraday and Thomas Edison harnessed electricity, the world was illuminated in ways never imagined before. Cities could come alive after sunset, industries could operate without pause, and communication could travel across wires in the blink of an eye. In the realm of medicine, The discovery of penicillin by Alexander Fleming saved millions of lives and changed the course of human health. Before antibiotics, a simple infection could mean certain death. With this discovery, the balance between humanity and disease shifted, allowing people to live longer, healthier lives and pushing the boundaries of what was medically possible. And in our own time, the unlocking of the human genome has opened doors that previous generations could only dream of. By mapping the very blueprint of life, scientists are now able to understand the roots of diseases, develop personalized medicine, and explore the mysteries of our biological origins. Each of these discoveries reminds us that human progress is fueled by curiosity, the relentless desire to know more, to understand more, and to do more. They show that the impossible is only a temporary state, waiting for the moment when someone dares to look beyond the known. In the story of humanity, discoveries are the chapters where the plot twists and the future transforms, offering us new tools, new visions, and new hope. Throughout history, the shape of the world we know today has been drawn and redrawn by the tides of war and the signatures of peace treaties. Borders, nations, and even identities have shifted because of conflicts that consumed generations and agreements that sought to end them. War has often been the dark force that brings destruction, but it has also been the turning point that forces societies to redefine themselves. Likewise, peace treaties have carried the promise of stability, even if that peace was fragile or temporary. Together, these moments have left their mark on the very map of human civilization. One of the most influential conflicts in history was the Napoleonic Wars, which swept across Europe in the early 19th century. Napoleon Bonaparte's campaigns redrew boundaries, toppled monarchies, and spread revolutionary ideas of equality and meritocracy. Yet when the wars ended, the Congress of Vienna sought to restore balance and prevent further upheaval. New borders were drawn, and a diplomatic framework was set that influenced European politics for nearly a century. The First World War was another conflict that reshaped the globe on an unprecedented scale. It was called the War to End All Wars, yet its ending sowed the seeds of the next great conflict. The Treaty of Versailles not only redrew the map of Europe, but also dismantled empires, from the Austro-Hungarian to the Ottoman. New nations emerged, yet the treaty's harsh terms on Germany created deep resentment that would erupt again in the Second World War. World War II brought devastation on a scale humanity had never witnessed before. But when the guns fell silent, the world's leaders recognized the need for a new global order. The United Nations was formed, and treaties carved up territories, split Germany, and created spheres of influence that would define the Cold War era. In Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, the collapse of colonial empires after the war led to independence movements and the birth of new nations, each with their own struggles and ambitions. Not all border changes came from violence alone. The end of the Cold War, marked by the peaceful dissolution of the Soviet Union, brought about one of the largest geopolitical shifts in modern history without a global war. New countries appeared almost overnight, and the map of Europe and Central Asia was rewritten yet again. Wars and treaties are not just about lines on paper. They are about people. Millions whose lives are altered by the decisions of leaders in conference rooms and battlefields. They reflect the human struggle for power, security, and identity. Some borders remain stable for centuries, while others are disputed for generations, showing that history is not as fixed as it may appear. The maps we know today are living records of both conflict and compromise. They tell stories of battles fought, lives lost, and the hard work of rebuilding. In every border lies a history of struggle and negotiation, and in every treaty lies the hope, however fragile, that peace will hold. History is more than a record of what happened. It is a vast library of lessons written in the struggles, achievements, and mistakes of those who came before us. Each era, each event offers guidance, sometimes in the form of triumphs to emulate, and other times as warnings to avoid repeating. The past is not a distant shadow. It is a mirror reflecting the choices we make today and the consequences they may bring tomorrow. If we learn to read that mirror carefully, we can shape a future that is wiser, fairer, and more compassionate. One of the clearest lessons history teaches is the danger of unchecked power. Time and again, civilizations have suffered under rulers who placed ambition above justice. From ancient empires to modern regimes, tyranny has led to suffering, resistance, and eventual collapse. These examples remind us of the value of accountability, the need for leaders to answer to the people, and the importance of preserving freedoms that protect societies from the rise of oppression. Another vital lesson is that progress requires unity, but unity does not mean uniformity. History shows that diversity of thought, culture, and perspective often drives innovation and resilience. Civilizations that embraced openness to new ideas, trade, and collaboration tended to flourish, while those that isolated themselves often stagnated or fell. The exchange of knowledge between different cultures has given the world its greatest advancements, from mathematics and medicine to art and philosophy. History also reveals the high cost of war and the fragile nature of peace. Every major conflict leaves behind not only new borders, but also scars on the land, in communities, and in the hearts of survivors. The treaties that end wars can be stepping stones to healing, but they can also plant the seeds for future conflicts if built on revenge rather than reconciliation. From this, we learn that true peace requires not just the absence of fighting, but the presence of justice and understanding. The past teaches us resilience. Humanity has endured plagues, natural disasters, and economic collapses, yet time and again, people have rebuilt, adapted, and found ways to move forward. This resilience is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is hope, that the capacity to recover and improve is deeply rooted in human nature. Perhaps the most profound lesson is that the future is never inevitable. It is shaped by countless decisions made in the present. The people of the past could not change their yesterday, but they could influence our today. In the same way, our actions now will become the history that future generations inherit. When we study history with open eyes, we gain more than knowledge. We gain perspective. We see that every choice matters, that progress is possible, and that the mistakes of yesterday need not be repeated. In honoring the lessons of the past, we give ourselves the power to build a future worthy of those who will one day study our own time. History is not just a story of the past. It is the heartbeat of humanity, echoing through time to remind us who we are and what we can become. The moments that changed history were born from courage, curiosity, struggle, and hope. They teach us that even the smallest spark can ignite a revolution, that a single discovery can open the doors to a new world, and that peace is always worth the fight. As we stand here today, we are not just witnesses to history, we are its authors. The future will remember us not for the challenges we faced, but for the choices we made. Let us choose wisely, act boldly, and leave behind a legacy that future generations will not only study, but cherish.